Hello, everyone. Welcome to our bi-weekly webinar for our SAP tips and tricks coffee break. So today, Mike Taylor, a consultant of ours, is going to be covering B1 Up, basic macro automation. You there, Mike?
I'm here.
Hey, good.
Hey. All right, ready to go. Thanks, Tracy. So today we're going to be covering macro automation. It's kind of one of the fundamental parts to B1 Up. Kind of describe what's a macro, how do you use them, do an example. We'll create a very simple one just to demonstrate what it can do. I'll show you where you can get help and resources, and then we'll have time for questions. This is a giant topic. I'm trying to just show the basics and get you thinking creatively. When I think about buying B1 Up, I think about macros because I know what they can do, but it takes a little bit of kind of understanding what they can do to start being creative, how they can help you and help your business be more efficient. They don't come out of the box at all. You have to create them, but it's designed to be simple to create them. So I'm going to try and explain not so much the technical side of what they can do in terms of coding, but I'm going to try to inspire you, hopefully, a little bit to understand where you would use them, why you would use them, and kind of sort of what they can do. Okay. So what is a macro? Basically, a macro is like if you ever use a macro for Excel, it allows you to take repetitive tasks in SAP and you can have those you could basically make a robot that can repeat those tasks for you in a very complicated and specific way. And you can pick up variables along the way. So we'll kind of show you that. So you can, if you do the same series of clicks or you fill out the same fields, or you need to pull fields manually from somewhere, you need to copy an order automatically to an invoice and then do a couple of fields, potentially based on conditional information, stuff like that. So you can repeat it, and anything that a human user can do, a macro can do as well. How do you use them? You can use them based on function buttons, and maybe I'll jump into my system and I'll just show you that instead of waving my hands around here. So let's log in. So how do you use a macro? A macro, again, it's kind of sort of one of those things where it is, it's up to your creativity, but the most simple way to do it is to use these sidebar buttons. These are called function buttons. And if you right click in the B1 usability package and you have it enabled, you can play with the function buttons. So this is where I'm going to start today, just to show you an extremely simple example where we're going to build a relationship map macro, a fit column width macro, and I'll show you a couple of more complicated ones where you can start to think about where you would use them. You might argue like some of the things I'm going to do are, like, oh, do we really need that? And it's, the answer is, yeah, some of them are convenience, but the thing about it too is if your users just like these buttons, which users just like buttons, that's what I've kind of found. There's always this kind of right click finding the thing, but somehow it's cool to just push a button, and especially if the button has a little bit more intelligence to it, I think it really adds to the user's experience. And I find that once I've put these buttons on the side, even if it's like, sometimes I'll do relationship map, fit column width, refresh, cancel, all those things are available in the various different places, but it kind of focuses the user on what they can do. So, it's kind of underrated as to what you'd use it. And then sky's the limit with much more complicated ways of using the macros, okay? So I'll show you a specific, more complicated example. Again, I'm not trying to make you kind of scared of these, but just to give you an idea of what happens. So a lot of the times we'll do a business partner loading function when you load a business partner into a document. So you'll have this tribal knowledge, say in an order desk, where the order desk knows, oh, it's this type of customer, so this particular thing needs to be set. It's this type of sale, so this particular metric needs to be set. Maybe you have check boxes and other different things that you need to be set. So we'd go through, and then you'd set, the language, you'd set the quick notes from the customers. So if the customer, I don't think I have any quick notes on this one, but you can set, little notes from there. I don't think it ran, but you can set the notes from here. So if you have repetitive notes, the request that I have a lot is when you load the customer to have a pop-up box pop up with the list of the notes. So if the business partner had the notes, you can have that pop up. So basically, you can use the macros for the, you can use your macros to be launched from these function buttons, but you can also trigger them from the loading of data. You can trigger them from leaving fields. You can trigger them from all sorts of different interactions when you click on a specific thing, when you go to click email, when you go to click all these other things. So again, the easiest way is by the button, but you can also have them just flow automatically through, or also when you enter an item too. So that would be a B1 validation. The third way that you can do it is through schedules. So you can schedule certain universal functions, and certain universal functions, you can set them on schedules, not necessarily a macro like this one, but you can schedule certain things to be run in the background so that you can have things update and change. So keep that in mind. The 3 ways to launch them. Standard way is button. It's user triggered. Second way is automatic. It would be user interface form triggered from some field. And you can trigger it based on multiple fields. You could trigger it based on specific fields. And then the third one would be schedule. So you could see, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but you could see there's some conditional things, like if the specific customer is, financial approval or not, you can actually change the color of fields. So you could change the background color of specific fields based on whether or not the customer is approved or not. You can prompt the customer, so you can see that I'm using a prompt here, and it is saying that the account's locked, view the invoices. So I've made kind of a pretty extensive system here of these macros, and you can see that each kind of line of code, it's not like, it's kind of a no coding system. You don't need to write the raw C#. You can kind of just follow along with the Boyum macro setup. So if we look at the quickly at the reference document, you could see, and this is just the Boyum help package for macros, you can see the setup and explanation for each one of these different types of commands. So you can actually go through here, look through them. There's some common ones like set, do all sorts of things, freeze and unfreeze, and you can do a ton of different things based on whatever you want to do. Again, that's kind of, this kind of inspires me when I look at the new functions they add, and I think, oh, what can I do? So periodically I'll just look through here, or if I'm looking for some sort of like, some scenario has been presented to me, maybe I'll just quickly skim through this and say, oh, okay, maybe something new has been added, because they add stuff new all the time. You can also see it in the commands up here. There's a ton of commands. So these are just the commands here built into what you have in this very limited like IDE, this little development environment. So you can see all the different things. And when you start to type, it'll suggest, and then you can kind of go through these. You don't need to know that, but just so you can maybe like browse through and see what's available and how you can do it. Okay, so we've covered how to launch. So I'll show you a little bit more of an advanced example. So you can see that in this document, this is closed. So this is one that I get quite frequently. So you can see a sales order, delivery, invoice, and the payment's done, but the payment has locked the invoice. So now you need to make a credit for this particular invoice, But what would you normally do? Go to sales, credit memo, add the customer, copy all the information over. So this is a good way to use a button. So you could say, oh, the user wants to credit it, because you see at the bottom, the copy to is blanked out. So we click manual credit and it runs my script. It actually makes the reference, and I'll show you that in a second. It copies whatever I want it to copy over so that we know that it's within that particular chain of documents. And then it presents all the original items in order for me to select what I want in order to credit. So I can say, search the lines, I can select none, and then check a couple. If there were, more quantity, I can actually change this to be what I want. And I should be able to check a couple of these and then select them. And it will use the original price and it will have the original quantity. You can turn without quantity posting on or off. You can do that as well if you're using that where you're not actually going to return it to. So I just didn't include that. And then you can actually see in the accounting that I did in the background, I automatically linked it to the original invoice and I put the link there so you will see it. Despite it being an external document outside of the original chain of documents, it wasn't copied to directly. It is referred to directly in a link. So you can set that link up. So, oops. View should work. I hope none of these have serials. Okay, so that added it. And we can go and we can look at this manual credit. So now that you know kind of what it does, if I go to this button's universal function, the universal function is what B1UP calls the umbrella of these functions. And then of the types, it's a macro type. So there's a whole bunch of other ones I'm not going to cover today. But you can see basically it stores information. And I like to put my descriptions here. Stores a couple of pieces of information, opens the credit memo, freezes the form, sets a whole bunch of different information, clicks the accounting tab. It's doing all these things that a human would have to do, but it packages it up into automatic logic. So you can see setting that, it's setting the reference information window and the contents, and then it runs the selection query so that you can add those particular items in there. So again, this is very, this is 5 out of 10 advanced, not what we're going to build today, but just so you can see what it does and then see kind of what the code was. And this isn't really, whatever this is, 50 lines of code or less than 50. And then you have this automation. And again, we can definitely do this for you if this is something that you need. So if I go back, I'll do the relationship map and the fit column width. So if I want to add a button to a particular form, right click, B1 usability package. So I would see edit function buttons. If you don't have function buttons, it'll say add function buttons. So in this case, I already have a couple, I've already made them. Edit function buttons. I've left these blank. So relationship map, fit column width, you can see they just line up here with where they're going to fit. And I guess at first I was opposed to these and I used to put all my buttons in the form, but actually this is very, very straightforward for formatting. This is, for all intents and purposes, I think it works great. And especially when you have a ton of these, you can just mix them, move them around. I like to keep them consistent between all the documents. So if I add like relationship map, fit column width, I'll try to recreate that on all the forms so it's consistent for the users. So you see here, you can go relationship map. You can say what it's going to do. There's a bunch of extra targets and things, but basically you want to say what form modes is it active in. I'm okay with it running in add mode. For relationship map, you probably don't want it in add mode. There won't be any relationship. I don't even think the right click is active in add mode anyway. Find mode, I don't want the button active. OK mode, I do. Fit column width is OK for add mode. Find mode, you don't really need it. And then OK mode for sure, you can have it. The manual credit here, I've set it so add mode, no, because you can't credit an invoice that's not already made. And then find mode, I don't have it there. Obviously in find mode, there's nothing to refer to. And then it's only in OK mode. So I just have to check relationship map, only in OK mode. Then I go to the universal function. Now I have to select one of the macros I've created. I haven't put one here. So I'll click the hamburger or push tab. I have a ton of these. Push new. So this will give me the new universal function I'm making. I'll pick type macro, which is what we're doing today. I personally like to put the document up here. So I know OINV, if I turn my view system information on, view system information, I know that this table is the invoice table. So if I see this macro or universal function laying around, I know where it's associated with. This is just kind of a best practice because when you see a full list of these macros, you might not necessarily know where it's used. Once it's added, you can right click and say, where is it used? But this is just a simple way for me to see it. So I'll put OINV. So I know that this is relationship map and this is on the invoice. The thing about this particular command is I know that it works for all documents. So how I normally designate that is I just put OXXX, and then that just means it's for any of the documents and that I can expect to use it anywhere because the same command will work on a sales order, it'll work on a delivery, it'll work on an invoice. So hopefully that makes sense. If you don't know or care about that, just put relationship map. You're fine. This is literally just for your own usage. Then all you need to do from here, what we want to do for the relationship map is we just want to activate one of the menu items, okay? So we want to do an activate command, and then we just want to figure out what specifically we're going to activate. So we look through here, activate. Activate menu items, user tables, UDOs. So in this case, we're using a menu item. So you can see how to use this. Very straightforward. So we're going to do an activate. So I'm going to jump back here, go to my thing, activate. You can see it comes up, double click. Now I need to tell it, what am I going to be clicking? So what did the user click? So again, make sure you have your system information, view system information checked, right click, relationship map. And you can see in the very bottom left, so you can see when you're moving around, the numbers change. It's a consistent numeric ID, 6016. So you can see it comes back very bottom left down in, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but down here in the left, right click, 6016. So I go 6016. And then I like to do this. This is just best practice for me. I just try to do it consistently for everything because if I come back and I just see activate 6016, you don't know how many times I've had to search for a field or a reference. I'd be like, I don't have any clue what 6016. In this case, there's only one thing, but it's very straightforward. So I'll say activate 6016, which is the relationship map. So it just simulates a user clicking on that button without them having to click it. What I will normally do is at the end of most of my macros, I won't necessarily do it for this one, but I'll do a little status bar. So I'll go success. And then I'll just put something like, you are now viewing the relationship map. I'll capitalize this just because it's like the map. And then I'll usually list out so the user can see which universal function was run. So this just spits out on the bottom status bar. You've seen the red bar error. This makes a nice green bar error. And then it runs your relationship map. And then it tells the user, you're now viewing the relationship map. So this is always good. You can put these in between in your macros anywhere you want, and it'll update it. You can use warnings, you can use error. You can make your own red bar errors in here if you feel like it. So that's basically it. This is extremely simple. This is optional. You can comment this out to hyphens, or I'll just leave it in to show you what it does. Add. So you can see here, relationship map, and the universal function is linked there. So I'll push update. So that saves it. So if I go back to our invoice, I should be able to push relationship map. It runs that. And with one click, you can see you're now viewing the relationship map. And then you can see my little message at the bottom there. Close it, click. You're now viewing the relationship map. So again, it's, you know, it makes it clear where people are going to look for things. Right click, relationship. Is it so much extra work? No, but users will always find a reason to not want to do that work anyways. So fit column width, it's the same thing. I can make an extra thing, move it up here. I was going to do sales analysis. I don't think I'll have time today, but I'll just do the fit column width, right click. So I'll just turn this button off. Fit column width can be in add mode because you might want an add mode, OK mode. Tab here or click the hamburger, click new. I already know that this is, again, consistent across all documents. So I'm just going to X here. And this is extremely simple thing you could do for all your documents right away. You don't need, like, it's not going to hurt anything. So fit column width is something that people don't use that much, but it's really nice. So say you're always struggling with overlapping fields. So you have this, or, you've moved around your form settings. It's super duper annoying, right? You're just like, I don't want to have to go and click, drag this. So there's a little secret, sneaky little trick where you can go view fit column width, and it just does that thing that Excel does where you double click between the things, but it does it for everything. So this just makes it really easy. So again, I'm just going to activate a menu, view, fit column width, 1300. So it is grayed out right now. Click here, view, 1300. So you can see in the very bottom left, 1300. 1300. Fit column width. Success. Your columns are now spaced evenly. So, be crazy. Add some spice to your system. Update there, go through, close this, and now fit column width, boom. So again, super simple, but view, fit column width. I bet that, I don't know, a good 90% of users don't even know that existed. So it's easy for you to see fit column width and relationship map. My sales analysis button didn't come up. I just have to reload the form. And then it's there. So I did make that change just to show you that it will show up. You just have to reload the form. And that's about it. So the sales analysis, I guess I probably do have time to do this. Sales analysis, basically I would just activate the menu. Why don't I just do it? I'm right here. New. If you hung on this long, then a little more won't hurt. Sales analysis. So I'm just going to trigger the sales analysis and then just copy over the customer information. So we can do the macro, activate. So instead of right from here, it's not going to be directly related to this. It's going to be a generic one, sales reports, sales analysis. It's 12801, 12801. Then what I'm going to do is I'll just kind of simulate this as if I was doing it as a human. So I can click here and then I have this. So that will pop that up. Then I want to transfer. So this just transfers data from an existing form to one that's coming up. So I'm going to click here. So the source is 4 and the target is here. So I'm going to copy it from the customer code to from and to. And then I'm just going to copy this. So we're going to copy the same base to here. We're just going to have it run the sales analysis. This is 50. So you can hold your mouse over here. You can also use view system information and then gather the system information with the B1 up code. So if you have B1 up installed and you're a super user, you should see this copy system information. So this will give you the right dynamic syntax. We're not going to cover the dynamic syntax this session. I'm just kind of assume you're somewhat familiar with it with formatted searches, etc. But you can just copy this dynamic syntax. It also explains it in the guide. So that's going to copy form 2. Then what we're going to do is click. Oops.
Hey, Mike, I've got a question here.
Okay.
Melina. Hello, Mike. Could you please elaborate on how to set the link between a manually created credit memo and the invoice so it shows up on the relationship map? Will it show up under document tree or reference documents?
Okay, good question. Let me click here and here. Okay, good question. I will go into that 1 second. Let me just show my, okay, so I just added sales analysis. All this really does is opens up sales analysis. Oh, I think I got the wrong number. I'm going too fast. Oh, I have to put that, it needs to click OK. I just forgot to put that in there. Boom, sales analysis. That's this. So this will fill this in and then it will come here. You can actually have it then double click this too to show you this information directly. So again, if you go to check sales analysis or another report, maybe you need that information, you can run that directly from the sidebar there. So again, this is a couple more steps, but just to get you thinking about what you can do. And again, mostly this is run by this. So the question about relationship map is, so let's go to relationship map. That's a really good question. So unfortunately, I wish SAP would have it in the main map. I just think that things you have to dig for, you will never see. Okay, so if you look on the bottom here, you go reference documents. So it does show it in the reference documents here. And it also does show it, it should show it, well, it should show it on this side. It doesn't show it here as a total, but it shows it in referenced by. So again, this is where, you know, a developer that never uses this day to day doesn't really appreciate that. That link is useless effectively, if I'm being completely honest here. That link is useless. Nobody's going to see it. It should show like a red line off of here, and it should be exactly like this, just in the main tree. Okay, so that kind of isn't great. But the positive thing is, if you want, you can actually make your own macro that would show an external link. So you can just detect these referenced documents to this, and then you can have that show up anywhere you want. So you could say, and this is what I've actually done here. I don't have an example today, but you could see related activities. I detect if there's a related activity to this particular document, because if there's a related activity to this document, and again, it's not visible, it's useless. So there's no point in having any, nobody uses activities because they're invisible to the user. They're completely unusable, and they're not functional without using B1UP. And this is why this is why I love B1UP, but it also, to get to that, you need a little bit more macro skill, let's say. So you could put related documents as a total, and then just when you load the document, you could just have B1UP cross-check if there's a link, and it'll just put, 0, 1, 2, and then you could put a golden arrow that drills down into the related documents, and then you can view it. So that would be a macro that will automatically detect and enter a number here. So it'll go 1, it should say related documents 1, and then you could have a golden arrow there from the field, which is, again, B1UP can do that. And then when you click the golden arrow, it will just run a simple macro that would pop up. Boop, it'll just pop that up without even switching to the tab. Or you could just have your own small SQL query, and then it'll show you related documents to it. And that would make it much, much more useful if you do need to refer to an external document like that, or you wanted to use related activity. Activities are great, but they should be prominent. There should be, a big flag on here like, warning, somebody has put a note against this document and you should view it because there's something weird. You're not going to go to every single document and just take the chance of looking for that reference document, et cetera, right? So being able to use B1UP allows you to work around some of those things that say don't necessarily make sense, but the amount of customization is extreme. You could do anything you want. So people can argue this system can do that and that system can do this. It's like, well, with SAP Business One and B1UP, you can basically do anything. So without even a lot of coding skills, you can use the macros, think through a little bit. You need a bit of experience, you need maybe some help. But if you can think of a specific way you want to store things or do things, you can push the system so far. And if you can do even a little bit of C# coding, you can do anything that a developer can do without compiling an add-on, etc. So the macro gets to be very extreme in terms of its functionality. I hope I probably went way too far on that topic, but any other questions? I guess
no,
I could just...
good, Mike.
Okay.
Melina has another one. For the manual credit macro, can I use the following sequence, choosing the name from menu, data/advanced/change document status to open/update? You know what, Melina? I am going to just unmute you so you can ask your question just in case I'm not setting it through properly here. Just a second here, Melina.
Choosing from a menu, data advanced.
Did you get that, Melina? I unmuted you.
She might not have a mic too. Yeah,
maybe, right. Okay.
And Melina, I don't necessarily know, like a macro can't make SAP do things it can't do. So that should be a clarification that I should have made.
No, it's the reason I asked for it. That's how I usually make manual credit memos. If the invoice is closed, I go change the status to open, update it, and then it lets me copy the the previously closed invoice into a credit memo. And when I copy, obviously all the information gets transferred, right? That's how I normally go about it. So I was wondering if that's the sequence you use to create that button.
I actually honestly had no clue this was available. That's crazy. Oh yeah. How, why, what? That's crazy. I actually literally didn't know that. So you just taught me something incredible today. So yeah, you can definitely do that. I'll be exploring that. Oh, that is incredible. Oh, so they've listened. I have not seen that. Yeah, no. So you would do the same thing. I don't do that because I probably made this code before that was an option. But no, you can for sure do that. So in that case, you could have a full relationship map link, I would imagine. So you would just do the same, I'm not going to change it here, but you would basically...
No, it will not.
It doesn't
will not
put the
keep
link.
The relationship, it will just keep it, but it's going to be a standalone credit memo, not associated with the original transaction, sadly.
Really? Let's see here. Not to... Okay, so let's just get rid of a couple of these guys. While we're talking about this. Okay, so that's added, reset, close, relationship map. It does.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
What version do you have? Because mine doesn't.
It is probably the newest, 10, 2202.
Okay, yeah. All right, mine doesn't.
Yeah, so okay, so that's cool. They're listening. Somebody gave them feedback. That's incredible. That's actually something that I hadn't seen that. So that must have been the first step towards that. Can you do that automatically, just to manual credit? Absolutely. You just do the exact same sequence of steps. So you data, go back here. It's not open. It's not there. Oh, advanced. So you would use 7901. So, I mean, what I would do, you can get really complicated here, but you would basically say if this item equals whatever the value is, 3, begin, and then you would open it. So you would basically activate your open. So you'd basically say if the document is closed, then do and then you'd open the document. So you would put your same from here, data advanced 7901, right? And then, so this would say, because you wouldn't, it would give you an error if you tried to open the document and it wasn't closed. So just to make sure that it was closed. And then if it was closed, it will activate it to reopen it. What you would need to do is then probably auto press next pop-up. So auto press next pop-up, if any pop-up happens, you would want to do that, and then you'd want to push update because you'd need to force this to do the update. So basically this would force through any pop-ups from SAP, and then this one would be complete update of document. Okay, so it would be something like this. So in the background, you would basically flip it to open. You have to, if you look at the auto press next pop-up, you have to do this command before you do your clicks, but this will allow it to press one of those SAP prompts, and then you would click update. So then this would flip it back to fully open, and then you can actually go copy to, and then you would copy to 14. Okay, and then basically you if you need to store some information, like store anything else, if you need to store anything else or do anything more functional, you can use a store before it goes to the next document. You can also do transfers between the parent and the child document if you need to. So you can basically do anything you want, but this effectively would do what you're going to do. So it either goes documents closed, use your fancy advanced way to turn it open, then use the copy button to copy it to 14. Right. So mine again was more manual, completely manual outside. So this actually literally makes a fully separate credit memo. It stores the original information so that I can use it later. And then I basically copy the couple of header things. And then I literally manually make it as if I made it totally outside of that system. So you would go, I would type here, then I would literally go to accounting, click the reference number, click the document, click the original invoice, type in, right? So it simulates that repetitive task that a human would have to do. But again, I don't really like the relationship map. So this is very cool. This is something I'm going to incorporate into my check what version it started on, and then I can kind of use that. So hopefully that answers it. Or
oh, thank you, definitely.
Yeah, thank you too. I learned something today.
I've got another question for you from Christina. She wants to know what version of SAP allows you to reopen the documents.
That is an extremely good question. I have never seen this. This is my development environment, so I don't really think about anything. I just do the upgrade. If there's a new patch, I'll do the upgrade, read the patch notes. Usually there's something I'm trying to check out or whatever, and I check out that specific thing, but I don't necessarily have time to look through the 100 patch notes from SAP. If I do have extra time and I skim through it, I don't know, basically, is the short answer to that. But it was fairly recently. I would imagine it's after V10.
Probably a version 10, yeah. That's what I'm guessing.
No, I
Milena,
have
you're
version
9.3.
It's been available since 2019. That's when we installed ours.
Yeah, wow, 9.2. I knew you were not 10.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's a good question, but definitely, and then like you're describing, Milena, being able to not see it in the relationship map, that was somewhat recent. So I would try that again in your system too. Maybe you didn't add it or something before you checked. You'd have to actually add the credit memo, close the invoice, go back to the invoice, then try a relationship map. Maybe it would work. So yeah, very cool. I guess the last thing that I wanted to show is just being able to search B1 usability package help. They have a ton of information. If there are videos on it, it will link to the BOEM videos. So these are all covered here. I find that some of their the documentation here is the most up to date, but they'll also have stuff like I'll find things in new versions that I've never that I don't know about. So I'll just Google those and see if they show up. And then a lot of the times they'll have videos on them. So you'll have your BOEM IT, and then they have universal function playlist, which will cover all of these things in great detail, from not just the macros, but like line loops and other things. Some of them are a bit long to watch, but I assure you that going through these will be very useful. And you can also do a B1 usability package certification. They have an e-learning track that you can do. I believe it's included with your licensing, but you can actually go through, and they have kind of a certification track that you can go through that kind of runs you through every single part of the B1 usability package, including the universal functions and the macros. Okay, so I think there's no more questions for today.
I don't see any, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions? You good?
Yeah, and just feel free to shoot the questions to Tracy or support desk. Like, there's a lot of our consultants that are really good with B1 Up now. Like, probably work with a lot now. So if they have questions, they ask me, or if you know, hopefully this, again, my point of today was not necessarily to teach you everything, but to get you thinking about how you could use it and how you could think about like removing repetitive tasks or automating repetitive tasks that your users can use. So if you need help with that, or you have an idea and you just want to run it by something, to shoot it to the support desks. Sometimes it'll end up with me, sometimes it'll end up with one of the other consultants. And that's it.
Well, thank you very much, Mike, and everybody enjoy your weekend. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.